My name is David Miller. I'm 45 years old, been a cop for nearly 20 years, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had everything a man could want. Married to Caroline for 18 years. 2 beautiful daughters, Emily, 17, and Grace, 15. A house in the suburbs with a 2-car garage and a backyard where we used to have barbecues every 4th of July. I built my life on 3 principles: discipline, loyalty, and sacrifice. Every double shift I worked, every overtime hour I logged, every holiday dinner I missed because someone had to keep the streets safe. It was all for them. Caroline understood that, or so I thought. She'd kiss me goodbye when I left for night shifts, have coffee waiting when I dragged myself home at dawn. The girls would show me their report cards, their soccer trophies, their art projects, and I'd tell myself that missing their games was worth it if it meant they had everything they needed. The house we lived in wasn't fancy, but it was ours. I'd paid off half the mortgage already, something I took pride in every month when I wrote that check. Caroline decorated it just the way she wanted. Soft colors, family photos on every wall, fresh flowers and vases she'd collected over the years. She managed everything while I worked. Parent-teacher conferences, doctor appointments, teenage drama. I thought we were a team. About 4 months ago, Caroline started taking the girls on what she called bonding days. Mother-daughter time, she said. Shopping trips, movies, lunch at nice restaurants. The girls are growing up so fast, she'd tell me, running her fingers through my hair as I sat at the kitchen table after a long shift. I want to make memories with them before they're off to college. How could I argue with that? It seemed like something a good mother would do. They'd leave on Saturday mornings. Caroline in that blue sundress I'd bought her for her birthday. The girls dressed up nicer than usual. They'd come back in the late afternoon with shopping bags from stores I didn't recognize, laughing about inside jokes I wasn't part of. The frequency increased. Once a month became twice, then every other week. Caroline would mention these outings casually. "Oh, we found this adorable boutique downtown," or "the girls wanted to try that new fusion place everyone's talking about." She'd show me a receipt here and there, but something felt off about the math. A lunch for 3 at a mid-range restaurant shouldn't cost what some of these receipts showed. Then came that Tuesday night 3 weeks ago. I'd gotten home early from a shift. My partner had to leave for a family emergency, and the captain sent me home rather than pair me with someone new. I was in the kitchen making a sandwich when I heard Grace on the phone in the living room. "I know, Richard is so funny," she whispered, then giggled, that nervous giggle teenagers do when they think they're being secretive. "Mom says we can—" She saw me and froze. Complete statue. The phone still pressed to her ear, her eyes wide like a deer in headlights. "Who's Richard?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. Emily appeared from nowhere, practically sliding into the room. "Oh, that's just someone from school," she intervened quickly. "Right, Grace? From your biology class?" The speed of her intervention, the rehearsed quality of her explanation, I'd interviewed enough suspects to recognize a cover story when I heard one. Grace nodded too quickly, ended her call without saying goodbye, and both girls suddenly remembered urgent homework that required their immediate attention upstairs. That night, I lay next to Caroline, listening to her breathing, and replayed the scene. Not just Grace's fumbled phone call, but Emily's swift damage control. The way they'd fled upstairs like criminals leaving a crime scene. My daughters, my honest, good girls, had just lied to my face with the kind of coordination that doesn't come naturally. It comes from practice. I thought about all those bonding days, the receipts that didn't quite add up, the new energy in the house that I'd attributed to female bonding but now felt like something else entirely. Caroline shifted in her sleep, murmuring something I couldn't make out, and I wondered who she was dreaming about. The next morning, Caroline announced another girls' day planned for the weekend. "There's a craft fair in Riverside," she said, not quite meeting my eyes as she poured coffee. "The girls have been asking to go." I looked at Emily and Grace. They exchanged a glance, quick, but not quick enough. Emily's lips twitched into the beginning of a smile before she caught herself. Grace suddenly became very interested in her cereal. "Sounds fun," I said, and meant it. Because for the first time in 18 years of marriage, my cop instincts were screaming that the three people I trusted most in this world were lying to my face, and I was going to find out why. Chapter 2. The Shadow of Doubt. That week stretched like a rubber band pulled to its breaking point. Every interaction with my family became evidence to catalog, every conversation a potential interrogation. I hated myself for it, for studying Caroline's face when she talked about grocery shopping, for noting how quickly Emily changed the subject when I asked about school, for watching Grace's hands fidget whenever I was in the room. Wednesday night, I checked Caroline's purse while she showered. Among the usual items, lipstick, hand sanitizer, her reading glasses, I found a receipt from Bella's, an upscale restaurant 40 minutes away. The date matched their last shopping trip to the mall. The total showed 4 entrees, 4 drinks, 4 desserts. Not 3, 4. My hands shook as I photographed the receipt and carefully placed it back exactly as I'd found it. In 18 years, I'd never gone through my wife's purse. Now, I was treating her like a suspect, and the evidence was mounting. Thursday, I came home for lunch unexpectedly. Caroline was on the phone in the bedroom, door partially closed. I stood in the hallway listening to my wife laugh, really laugh the way she used to when we first dated. I know, she said into the phone. Saturday can't come fast enough." A pause. "No, he doesn't suspect anything. The girls are perfect. They've gotten so good at this." I backed away silently, made noise coming up the stairs again. When I entered the bedroom, Caroline was off the phone, folding laundry with practiced calm. "Hi, honey," she greeted me, kissing my cheek. "What brings you home?" "Forgot my backup piece," I lied, matching her deception with my own. "You okay?" "You look flushed." "Just did a workout video," she replied, gesturing to the TV that was clearly off, the remote dusty on the dresser. That evening, I did something I swore I'd never do. I logged into our cell phone account and pulled the records. The unknown number appeared like an infection spreading through our family's communication. Caroline had exchanged over 300 texts with it in the past month alone. Calls lasting 30, 40 minutes during my shifts. The number had also been in contact with both Emily and Grace. I cross-referenced the timing. Every single bonding day corresponded with a spike in communication with this number. The morning texts starting around the time they'd leave. Caroline's calls during what should have been shopping or lunch, even late-night texts after I'd gone to bed. But it was the girls' involvement that gutted me. They weren't innocent bystanders, they were active participants. Emily had sent dozens of texts to the number. Grace fewer, but still enough to show complicity. My daughters were helping their mother. What? Have an affair? The word felt like glass in my throat. Friday afternoon, I sat in my patrol car staring at the evidence I'd compiled in my notebook. Times, dates, inconsistencies, lies. The receipt for 4 people, the unknown number, the coordinated deceptions. Any other case, I'd have enough to establish pattern and intent. But this wasn't any other case. This was my family. My partner, Rodriguez, knocked on the window. "You good, Miller? You've been sitting here for 20 minutes. "Yeah," I answered, closing the notebook. "Just thinking." "About that domestic from earlier?" he asked. "Something like that," I replied. That night, dinner was torture. Caroline had made my favorite, pot roast with those little potatoes I loved. The girls chatted about school, about friends, about weekend plans. Normal family dinner conversation. Except now I heard the gaps, the careful omissions, the way they steered around anything that might touch on their real plans for tomorrow. "Dad, you're being quiet," Emily observed. and for a second, I saw concern in her eyes. Real concern, like she actually cared. "Long day," I responded. "That craft fair tomorrow. What time are you heading out?" Caroline and Grace looked to Emily, so subtle most people would miss it. But I didn't miss anything anymore. "Probably around 11, Caroline answered for them. "We want to get there before it gets too crowded." "Riverside's a nice area," I commented, cutting into my roast. "Haven't been out that way in a while." "You should come sometime," Grace offered, then immediately looked like she wanted to take it back. "Maybe I will," I said, and watched all three of them tense. After dinner, I helped Caroline with dishes, something I rarely did, but I needed to be close to her to see if I could find any trace of the woman I married. She hummed while she washed, handed me plates to dry, and for a moment, it was like old times. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, smiled, and quickly turned it face down. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just Mom," she said without hesitation. "Asking about Sunday dinner." Her mother had been dead for 3 years. I dried the last plate, kissed her forehead. She stiffened slightly and went to watch TV. But I wasn't watching. I was deciding. Tomorrow I'd follow them. Tomorrow I'd learn the truth. Tomorrow I'd find out if I was paranoid or if the 3 people I'd devoted my life to had been making a fool of me for months. Either way, tomorrow would change everything. Chapter 3. The Moment of Truth. Saturday morning arrived gray and humid, the kind of oppressive heat that makes everyone irritable. I woke at 6, my usual time, and watched Caroline sleep. In the pale morning light, she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 20 years ago. Soft features, laugh lines I'd helped create, that small scar on her chin from when she'd fallen off her bike on our 3rd date. How many mornings had I watched her like this, feeling lucky? She stirred, opened her eyes, and smiled. Then something flickered across her face. Guilt? Anticipation? It was gone before I could analyze it. "Morning," she murmured, stretching. "Morning. Big day at the craft fair?" I asked. "Should be fun," she replied. She got up, headed for the shower. "You working today?" "Paperwork at the station. Probably be gone most of the day," I told her. "We'll miss you," she said, and disappeared into the bathroom. The word sat heavy between us, meaning something different to each of us now. I went through the motions of getting ready for work, uniform pressed, badge shined, weapons secured. I kissed Caroline goodbye, called out to the girls, and left at 9:30. But instead of heading to the station, I parked 3 blocks away and waited. At 10:45, I watched my family load into Caroline's SUV. She'd chosen a yellow sundress, one I didn't recognize. New perfume, too. I'd smelled it when I kissed her goodbye. The girls were dressed nicer than any craft fair warranted. Emily wore the designer jeans Caroline claimed she'd found on clearance. Grace had on a sweater that looked cashmere. I followed at a distance, my unmarked car invisible in Saturday morning traffic. They took Route 9 toward Riverside, and for a few minutes I allowed myself to hope. Maybe there really was a craft fair. Maybe I'd built this all up in my head, a paranoid cop seeing crimes where there were none. Then Caroline passed the Riverside exit. She continued for another 15 minutes, turning into neighborhoods I recognized from patrol, but had no reason to visit. Suburban streets with larger houses, manicured lawns, the kind of money that whispered instead of shouted. My grip on the steering wheel tightened as she navigated with obvious familiarity. No GPS, no hesitation at turns. When she pulled into the driveway of a 2-story colonial with perfect landscaping, my heart stopped. This wasn't a public place. This was someone's home. I parked down the street behind a contractor's van and watched. Caroline didn't knock. She used a key. My wife had a key to another man's house. The girls followed her inside like they'd done it 100 times before. I sat there for 5 minutes, maybe 10, trying to process what I'd seen. Then I got out and approached the house with the tactical awareness 20 years of police work had given me. The front windows were partially visible from the street. Through sheer curtains, I could see into what looked like a living room. What I saw next broke something inside me that would never heal. Caroline was in his arms, a tall man, early 40s maybe, with the kind of casual wealth that showed in his posture, his clothes, his entire bearing. They kissed like lovers comfortable with each other's bodies, his hands familiar on her waist, her fingers in his hair. My wife, the mother of my children, kissing another man like I didn't exist. But it was my daughters that destroyed me completely. Emily sat on a cream-colored couch, scrolling through her phone like this was normal. Grace was curled up in an armchair with a book, occasionally laughing at something the man said when he and Caroline broke apart. They were comfortable here, relaxed, at home. The man, this stranger who was kissing my wife, walked over and ruffled Grace's hair affectionately. She smiled up at him. Emily showed him something on her phone, and he laughed, that easy laugh of someone who belonged in this picture. Caroline brought him coffee in a mug that suggested this was routine. He knew how he liked his coffee here. He had a favorite mug. I watched my family, my entire world, exist in someone else's life like they belonged there more than they'd ever belonged with me. The fury that built in my chest was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Not hot rage. That would have been easier. This was cold, absolute, the kind of anger that calculates and measures and plans. I'd been working overtime to pay for Emily's college applications while she helped her mother cheat. I'd been sacrificing family dinners to ensure Grace could have her dance lessons while she kept her mother's secrets. I'd been killing myself to provide for a family that had replaced me without even having the decency to tell me. Caroline laughed at something the man said, throwing her head back, and I recognized the earrings she wore, diamond studs I'd given her for our 15th anniversary. She'd worn my gift to meet her lover, brought my children to witness her betrayal, turned my daughters into accomplices. The man's hand found Caroline's lower back, possessive and familiar. She leaned into him while Emily and Grace chatted like this was any other Saturday, like their father wasn't working to support them, like 18 years of marriage was just something to endure between visits to this house. I stepped back from the window, my decision made. No more watching, no more evidence needed. It was time to end this charade. I walked to the front door with the measured steps of someone approaching a crime scene. Everything felt hyper-real. The weight of my service weapon, the smell of suburban lawns, the sound of a lawnmower in the distance. Normal Saturday sounds in a neighborhood where my life was about to explode. I didn't knock. I pounded on the door with the side of my fist, the way cops do when they mean business. The voices inside stopped immediately. Footsteps approached, confident, unhurried. The man had no idea what was coming. The door opened, and we stood face to face, the provider and the parasite, the husband and the lover, the fool and the thief. He knew instantly who I was. The color drained from his face as he recognized the uniform, the badge, the look in my eyes that promised violence. Behind him, Caroline appeared in the hallway. Our eyes met, and in that moment, 18 years collapsed into nothing. Her mouth opened, maybe to lie, maybe to explain, maybe to beg. I spoke first, my voice steady as bedrock. "Hello, Caroline. Girls, come here. Now." Chapter 4. The Reckoning. "David, please let me—" Caroline started desperately. 18 years, I cut her off, stepping into the house uninvited. The man, Richard, Caroline called him, backed away, smart. 18 years I've been married to you, and this is what I get. Emily and Grace had come into the hallway, both pale, both trembling. Good. They should be scared. "It's not what you think," Caroline tried again, and I actually laughed, a harsh sound that made everyone flinch. "Not what I think? You have a key to his house. My daughters are sitting on his furniture like they live here. You were just kissing him while wearing the earrings I gave you for our anniversary." I turned to Richard. "How long?" He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Caroline. "How long?" I roared, and everyone jumped. 6 months, Caroline whispered. 6 months. 24 weeks. 180 days of lies. "And you two?" I looked at my daughters. "How long have you known?" Grace started crying. Emily lifted her chin defiantly. 4 months, she admitted. The calculating part of my brain noted that meant Caroline had hidden it from them for 2 months, then brought them into her deception, turned my children into conspirators. "Dad, please," Emily continued. "Mom was unhappy." "Unhappy?" I stepped closer to Richard, who backed against the wall. "She was unhappy, so instead of talking to me, instead of counseling, instead of divorce, she decided to have an affair and use my children to hide it?" "David, you were never home," Caroline protested, finding her voice. "Always working, always tired. Working to provide for you." The words exploded out. "Every overtime shift, every holiday I missed, every double I pulled. It was all for you, for them, for our family." Richard made the mistake of speaking. "Maybe we should all calm down and—" I grabbed him by his expensive shirt and slammed him against the wall. "You think you get to tell me to calm down? You've been sleeping with my wife, playing daddy to my kids, and you want me to calm down?" "David, no!" Caroline screamed. I drove my fist into Richard's face. 20 years of police training didn't teach me restraint in that moment. It taught me how to maximize damage. His nose broke with a satisfying crunch, blood immediately flowing. He tried to defend himself, but I was bigger, stronger, and fueled by the kind of rage that could move mountains. I hit him again and again, methodically, professionally, each blow calculated for maximum pain without killing him. Temple, solar plexus, kidney. He dropped to his knees, gasping, bleeding, and I grabbed his hair, forcing him to look at me. "You thought you could take my family?" I said, my voice deadly quiet. "You thought there wouldn't be consequences?" I dragged him through his own house, past my screaming daughters, past Caroline begging me to stop, and threw him onto his pristine front lawn. The neighbors were starting to come out. Good. Let them see. Richard tried to crawl away, but I wasn't done. I kicked him in the ribs, feeling them crack. He curled into a ball, whimpering, and I stood over him like an avenging angel. "Stay away from my family," I announced loud enough for everyone to hear. "If I ever see you near them again, what happened today will seem like mercy." Someone was calling 911. I heard the words "officer" and "domestic," and almost laughed. I was the police. I knew exactly how this would go down. I turned back to my family. They'd followed us outside, Caroline sobbing, the girls clinging to each other. The neighbors watched from their lawns and doorways, this suburban drama playing out like a soap opera. "You," I pointed at Caroline, "are done. The marriage is over. The prenup you signed means you get nothing. The house is mine. The savings are mine. You'll be lucky if I give you enough for a security deposit on an apartment." "Dad, please," Grace sobbed. I turned to my daughters, and something in my face made them step back. "You knew. For 4 months, you knew. Every time I came home from work, every time I asked about your day, every time I told you I loved you, you looked me in the eye and lied." "We didn't want to hurt you," Emily said through her tears. "No. You wanted to protect her," I corrected harshly. "You chose her affair over my sacrifice. You chose him." I gestured to Richard, still writhing on the ground. "Over the man who's worked himself to death to provide for you." "David, they're children," Caroline pleaded. "They're old enough to know right from wrong, old enough to make choices. And they chose to betray me, just like you," I responded coldly. I could hear sirens in the distance. Time to wrap this up. "You have until tomorrow morning to get your things and get out of my house," I declared. Whatever you can't carry leaves with the trash. The locks will be changed by noon. Where will we go? Caroline asked desperately. I don't care. Maybe Richard will take you in. Oh, wait. I looked at him trying to sit up, his face a mess of blood and bruises. He doesn't look like he'll be taking anyone in for a while. The police cars were pulling up now. I knew the officers who got out, Martinez and Samuel from my precinct. They looked at me, at Richard, at the scene, and understood immediately. Miller? Martinez said carefully. He was sleeping with my wife, I explained simply. I found them here with my kids. I reacted. Samuel looked at Richard. Sir, do you want to press charges? He asked. Richard looked at me, at my fellow officers, at the reality of his situation. He shook his head. Smart man, I commented. Officers, I'll be taking my family home now. David, we can't just... Caroline started. Yes, we can. And we will, I interrupted. I looked at each of them. My lying wife, my treacherous daughters. Get in the car. Now. They didn't move. Get in the car, I shouted. They scrambled to Caroline's SUV. I turned to Martinez. I'll file my report in the morning, I told him. He nodded. Professional courtesy. The blue wall. Richard would get no justice here, just like I'd gotten no loyalty from my family. I followed them home in my car, watching Caroline's SUV weave slightly, her hands shaking on the wheel, no doubt. Good. Let them feel a fraction of what I felt. At home, I stood in the doorway while they filed past me. You have until 9 tomorrow morning. Take only what you can carry. Leave your house keys on the kitchen table, I instructed. Daddy, please, Grace tried one more time. I'm not your daddy anymore, I said, the words cutting her like a blade. Your daddy is apparently Richard, or whoever your mother moves on to next. I went to my study and locked the door, listening to them cry and pack and scramble. Caroline tried the door several times, knocking, pleading, but I was done listening to her voice. 18 years of listening had gotten me nothing but betrayal. That night I sat in my chair with my service weapon on the desk, not to use it, but to remind myself that I had power. I had control. I had taken back what was mine, my dignity, my house, my life. By morning, they were gone. Epilogue. Living with the ashes. 3 months have passed since I destroyed my family in that perfect suburban neighborhood. I say destroyed because that's what everyone else calls it. My captain, the department shrink they made me see, the lawyers. But I know the truth. I didn't destroy anything. I simply revealed what was already broken. The house is quiet now. I've removed all the family photos, packed away 18 years of memories in boxes I'll probably never open. The walls are bare, but at least they're honest. No more lies hanging in frames. No more fake smiles frozen in time. Caroline got exactly what the prenup specified, the minimum. $10,000 and her personal belongings. She fought it, of course, hired a lawyer who tried to argue emotional distress, coercion, abandonment. But I had the evidence, the texts, the receipts, the 6-month affair she'd admitted to in front of witnesses. The judge, a man who'd been divorced twice himself, wasn't sympathetic. She and the girls moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on the east side. Emily had to give up her spot at the private school, couldn't afford the tuition anymore. Grace quit her dance lessons. They both got part-time jobs at a mall food court. Caroline found work as a receptionist at a dental office, making in a month what I used to make in a week of overtime. Richard? His face healed, but his life didn't. Turns out his investment firm had a morality clause. The scandal, a bloodied executive beaten by a police officer on his own lawn, cost him his partnership. His wife divorced him and took him for everything the prenup didn't protect. Last I heard, he'd left the state entirely. Good riddance. The girls tried reaching out at first. Texts I didn't answer. Calls I didn't return. Emily sent a letter. Pages of apologies, justifications, pleading for understanding. I burned it without reading past the first line. Grace left a voicemail on my birthday, crying so hard I could barely understand her. I deleted it. My lawyer handles the mandatory support payments. Court-ordered for the girls until they're 18, nothing for Caroline. I pay exactly what's required, not a penny more. No college funds, no car insurance, no cell phone bills. They wanted to protect their mother's affair? They can live with her choices. The department gave me a commendation last month, some drug bust I'd worked before everything fell apart. I stood on the platform, accepted the medal, and felt nothing. Rodriguez mentioned Caroline had called the station, trying to get information about me. They told her to stop or they'd charge her with harassment. I've been seeing someone, nothing serious, just a woman from the gym who doesn't ask questions about why I don't have family photos in my house. She doesn't know the whole story, just that I'm divorced. Maybe someday I'll tell her. Maybe not. Trust isn't something I give freely anymore. Sometimes, late at night, I stand in what used to be Grace's room. She left some things behind. A stuffed bear she'd had since she was 3, some books, a poster of her favorite band. I haven't touched any of it. It serves as a reminder of what betrayal costs, what choosing sides means. Emily graduates high school this year. I heard through the grapevine she didn't get into any of the colleges she'd applied to, couldn't afford the application fees for enough schools, didn't have the extracurriculars anymore. She'll go to community college maybe, or maybe she'll just work. Not my problem anymore. Caroline ran into Martinez's wife at the grocery store last week. She broke down crying in the cereal aisle, apparently. Said she missed me, that she'd made a terrible mistake, that the girls were suffering. Martinez's wife, who'd been cheated on herself years ago, told her she'd made her bed and now had to lie in it. Alone. Do I have regrets? Number. Regret implies I would do something differently, and I wouldn't. They had choices. Caroline could have talked to me about being unhappy, could have asked for counseling, could have filed for divorce honestly. Instead, she chose deception. The girls could have told me the truth, could have refused to participate, could have shown me the loyalty I'd earned through years of sacrifice. Instead, they chose to be accomplices. Every choice has consequences. They made theirs. I made mine. I kept my house, my pension, my dignity. They kept each other and the knowledge that when tested, their loyalty was for sale. When push came to shove, they stood with betrayal over truth, with comfort over honor, with a stranger over the man who'd given them everything. Some people have said I went too far, that I should forgive the girls at least, that they were manipulated, that they were just trying to keep their family together. But they're wrong. Family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about loyalty, trust, and choosing each other when it matters. They didn't choose me, so I didn't choose them. The house is quiet now, but it's an honest quiet. No whispered phone calls, no secret texts, no coordinated lies. Just me and the truth, which is more than I had for 6 months while my family played house with another man. I gave them everything, my youth, my health, my time, my trust. They gave me betrayal wrapped in bonding days and seasoned with deception. When I caught them, I gave them exactly what they deserved. Nothing. Some might call it harsh. I call it justice. They chose their side when they chose to lie to me, and now they're living with the consequences of that choice. As am I. The difference is, I can live with my choices. I wonder if they can say the same. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.